The off-season for League of Legends feels like an absolute eternity. It feels like it lasts a lifetime. August was the last time that we saw some of the LCS teams on stage. Some of these players got to play, what, 18 games in summer, and then it's months off. By the time you're seeing this, we are still 20 days away from getting to the actual LCS split. You're good. You're good. Go ahead. I've always thought there's more that we could be doing to try and help smooth over the off-season, and one of those things is tournaments. And I'm really happy that Jordan Marnie actually brought up a phenomenal point here that I've wanted to go in depth on. Should there be more tournaments for North American pros, hell, for even other regions, besides just the main leagues themselves and the occasional for fun event? If you remember the Mr. Beast event that had Doublelift and Bjergsen in it, or well, I think both were supposed to be in it, but then one of them wasn't allowed. Nevertheless, it doesn't have to be like that. What about online tournaments? So let's talk about a game that has an even longer off season, which is Call of Duty. Holy dear God, does that game have like the worst developer support in terms of like developers understanding how long the season should be, how many events there should be, etc. It's the worst of any esport. Yet there's a dedicated following that continuously watches the product week in, week out, even during the off season, because there are tournaments, and they're integral to Call of Duty's history. Unlike League of Legends, Call of Duty comes out with a new game each and every year, and part of the fun of those new games is the fact that you can occasionally get 2Ks and 5Ks on the weekend, or at least you used to. I think the scene's changed a little bit, but nevertheless, there were weekly tournaments on the weekends whenever there was not league play or other things going on. It was a phenomenal way for players to get more tournament experience. Even though it's online, it's still better than scrims. It's better than any other environment that you're really going to get. And it was a blast to watch and a blast to referee. Because yes, I was a UMG referee that helped organize these tournaments on the weekends back during the Black Ops 3 days. So I have direct experience with these off-season tournaments that help promote viewership and interest in the league. Because let's be honest, things like Champions Queue or stream scrims, they're interesting, but when there's nothing on the line, it really feels like crap, if we're being honest. I get there's a lot of people that do enjoy streaming Champions Queue, and by no means is this like going at them. I just feel like people are washed into this point believing that that's the optimal way. There are so many better options out there, but for some reason we are allergic to putting those into League of Legends, because it would help everybody all around. The fact that the biggest tournament in the off-season has historically been either the T1 Invitational or this past week the Dantes Invitational is mind-boggling to me, because you have these pro players that need to start making a name for themselves. The biggest gripe that we've had within the pro League of Legends scene, at least in North America for a while now, is that we don't have these players that can stream or do these other things, and realistically all they're doing is playing solo queue. So I get why it can sometimes be hard to stream, because believe me, when you have nothing else really going on, it's kind of hard to make it entertaining in the same way that like a tournament would. So say there were tournaments every other weekend during the off season where pros could play, but the rule obviously would be that you cannot be on a team with more than 2 people on your reported roster or even official roster from last year. You can make rules pretty easy on like the stipulations behind what's allowed and what's not, but just allow these guys to play. Even if it's for $1,000, do you understand how much more entertaining that would be than watching another Champion 2 game with a random team? At least then you've got, you know, a team of 5 guys going in this, and they're just dedicating a Saturday to it. It gives you weekend entertainment that, hey, maybe you check in at noon to see how the tournament's going, and then you check back out, and then you come back around like 10 or 11 at night, and the tournament's going on. I understand it's a long day for pros, but you know what they're doing anyways? Playing the game. All of this talk makes me really miss the Lockin Tournament. I wish that would come back, because I hope you understand how important it actually was for some of the storylines going into the year. Let me take it back to 2021. As a 100 Thieves fan, we've never really had the best of luck when it came to Lockin Tournament. 2021, the first year, we actually ended up finishing 3rd, getting 3-2'd by Cloud9. I think we actually got reverse swept, but it was the first time that we had the roster that would go on to later in the year win an LCS title. It was FBI, Huhi, Demonte notably in mid lane, Closer, and Someday. But it was a group of guys that had more chemistry coming into the year than prior teams. And this is just a small tournament. It doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things, other than I think like 150K that was on the line. But it was a good way for fans to kind of dip their toes into the year and like get started, because there were problems with the tournament. Most notably, roster and visa issues were the biggest problem that we would see, because teams were importing more players than they were historically, and because of that, they would then come in a little bit later. You'd have rosters that would almost entirely miss the Lockin Tournament, like Cloud9 2022, but it arguably provided a more compelling narrative whenever they finally did get in spring. And I know people are like, oh, well, this tournament doesn't matter in the beginning of the year. Well, guess what? The entirety of January does not matter in the grand scheme of things for League of Legends, because as long as you qualify for the postseason later, you're fine. And the top 6 teams typically qualify no matter what. My question to you would be, do you remember who won Lockin Tournament back in 2021? It was actually Team Liquid. This was the Alfari roster whenever he was coming over. I forget who they had in jungle. Was it still Smithy? I don't know. But nevertheless, it gave us a very early preview in a best of 5 of what Team Liquid versus Cloud9 might look like. And guess what? They got that exact rematch again come spring final, which made it even more exciting. Sure, there were some teams at the bottom that people didn't really care about, but that's also the nature of the LCS. The bottom half of things just have never historically mattered for some people, and that's perfectly fine. But it was more entertaining than just normal best of 1s were, in my opinion. I know there were some people that didn't like this tournament, but hey, I thought it was cool. Jump forward again to 2022. Do you remember who finished second? It was a roster full of rookies that people weren't sure how they were going to do. Now again, because of the whole Cloud9 2022 thing and them having visa issues getting Berserker and others over to the country, it wasn't the full roster of the full tournament, but 100 Thieves notably lost very early on in the tournament, defending LCS champions, kind of giving a sign of what might be to come and some of the struggles they might have. But it was actually Jojo Pune and Danny and Evil Geniuses that would end up finishing second. And that became a precursor to them going on to win the spring split. You see what I mean by storylines like this kind of developing as time goes on, and without events like this, you don't have that? Now, would people be happy giving up more time of the LCS split? Not necessarily. Given that we know that the league starts on January 20th with best of 1s, I can't say that I'm the biggest fan of best of 1s, and I would rather see a tournament like this instead of something like that that's going to last all the way through April, but I don't know, to his and her their own. So here's my suggestion. Given that roster lock typically free agency begins the second week of November, and typically rosters are pretty much already locked well before then, I say we do 2 tournaments during the first 2 weeks of December that in every region it's like $5,000 each. It's not much, and you limit it to where only 3 players of an individual team reported for the next year per the contract database, or like roster leaks in general. Like Riot can just use their determination there and like the goodwill of people in general. Or if you want to allow all the rosters, allow all the rosters. I don't even care. Either way, 2 tournaments the first 2 weeks of December, then we take 2 weeks off for Christmas because everybody's going to be gone, at least here in North America. If you want to do it in other regions, go right ahead. But then when you come back, the first 2 weekends of January, then rosters will be announced. Everything will officially be in the contract database. Then you can put in the official rule of, hey, teams can't fully play together, but we're going to have 2 weekend kickoff events to celebrate the new season. For example, this year, January 9th is going to be the first time that the general public is going to get to play the new map. So why don't you just have a tournament that Saturday, and then also the following Saturday as well? You could even make it 2 days, both Saturday and Sunday. And that gets people both excited for the new season, gets them interested, and then also gets you kind of accustomed to the players that you might end up seeing on the professional stage here in a few weeks. And you could also get some higher streamers and other people that just want to enter via random tournament entry. It's an online open tournament, and you use like total aggregate challenger rank or whatever that might be to determine seeding for the tournament itself. Now, I don't know who organizes it, because I know Game Battles is closing. I don't know if UMG is still open, but there's got to be some sort of tournament organizer out there to be able to take care of this. And you don't have to throw much money on the line. You could throw just a little bit, and the top 2 get it. And I think you'd have a lot of people playing in it that'd be fun and interesting, and would create a positive streaming environment as well. That's just my suggestion. So to put a bow on Jordan's points again, yes, there should 100% be more tournaments within the North American ecosystem and every other ecosystem that exists. At least LPL has Demacia Cup. But at a minimum, I'd just like to see Lockin Tournament back and start a little bit earlier. Even if there are visa issues, I don't care. Open it up to NACL teams and other teams outside of just the franchise League of Legends teams. Like, that's the one part of franchising that I cannot stand, is that there's no interaction between amateur and the pro teams. It's not like they can go to Worlds. They're already barred from that. So why not give them a little bit of a bone and just let them play against some of the top teams out there, or at least like parts of top teams? I mean, come on. It can't be that hard to do, and it'd be healthier for the scene in general. We gotta get back to our roots of understanding tournaments are what drive viewership, drive stories, and drive interest. It is not just league matches, even though there's a time and a place for those. Be sure to comment down below, do you want to see Lockin Tournament back? That's my biggest question I have of all this, because I miss it dearly. Be sure to drop a like as well and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next video. Adios.